Every room you enter whispers before you speak. They think you don't notice, but you do. The air tightens, the rhythm breaks, the conversation stumbles, like a machine that suddenly remembers fear. You can feel it, the shift, the tremor that crawls through their fake smiles. They call it respect, but it's not. It's fear, dressed like courtesy. They don't look at you the same. Their eyes flicker, searching for weakness but finding something worse. Silence. And silence frightens them more than rage ever could. Because silence means control. Silence means power. You learned that early. Not everyone deserves your truth. Not everyone can stand beneath your shadow. You became what they feared. Not loud, not cruel, just inevitable. You walk in, and they adjust their tone. You sit down, and their laughter dies. You don't demand their attention. It kneels. That's the difference between you and them. They chase validation. You carry gravity. They talk about you when you leave. They wonder what you're thinking when you stay. They create versions of you. Softer, weaker, safer, to make themselves feel less small. But none of those versions exist. You killed them long ago. Every scar, every betrayal, every night you spent alone, it all forged you into something they can't name. They call you cold because they can't handle calm. They call you ruthless because they fear decisiveness. They call you arrogant because they mistook your silence for approval. They thought your silence was weakness. It was preparation. You were studying them, their patterns, their lies, their hierarchy of masks. You learned that the loudest in the room are the emptiest, and that true strength never needs an audience. You became the echo that lingers after they speak. You became the pressure they feel when they lie. Your presence alone is a test, and most fail it before they even meet your eyes. They can't understand what you've become because it wasn't handed to you. You built it from the ashes of who you were supposed to be. You built it in silence, brick by brick, while they laughed. And when the storm came, they ran for shelter. But you were the storm. Now they see it. The stillness around you isn't peace. It's power caged. The calm before the thunder. You waited, patient, calculating, like a blade that learns the rhythm of the air before it strikes. You stopped explaining yourself the day you realized explanation is for equals, and you have none. They will never understand you because they were never built to. They were designed to follow the noise. You were destined to become the silence, the kind of silence that bends rooms, that changes hearts, that kills comfort. And the best part, you didn't have to raise your voice. You didn't have to prove them wrong. You just became everything they said you couldn't. Now they flinch when you move. Now they whisper when you leave. Now they ask, what happened to him? But the truth, nothing happened to you. Something was awakened. The storm they mocked. Learned to speak in lightning. The shadow they feared. Learned to stand in fire. And now, you don't chase power. You embody it. You waited. You watched. You endured. And when the world forgot your name, you carved it into stone. You are not the echo of their approval. You are the silence that makes them question their own worth. So when you walk into the room and the air changes, when the laughter stops and eyes fall, remember this, they feel it because they know. The storm has arrived. And you've been patient long enough. Thunder doesn't ask for attention. It simply announces the inevitable. They made you the villain. Because it was easier than facing their guilt. Every betrayal left a mark. Not on your skin, but deeper. In the place where faith once lived. In the place where you believed people meant what they said. You remember the first time it broke you. The trust you gave. The silence you received. How they smiled in your face and laughed behind your back. How they promised loyalty, but vanished when the fire came. They called it life. You called it dissection, because every betrayal wasn't just pain. It was surgery without anesthesia. They cut you open to see how much you could endure. And you endured. You bled quietly. You gritted your teeth while they preached about kindness. You walked through every lie with eyes open, and somehow you still hoped. But then it clicked. Hope is a weapon when placed in the wrong hands. They used yours against you. They twisted it, broke it, mocked it, until there was nothing left but shards. That's when you learned love doesn't hurt. People who don't understand it do. Loyalty doesn't wound. Humans who fake it do. You remember every blade, not for revenge, but for clarity. Every laugh that felt like mockery. Every friend that turned ghost. Every "I'll be there" that disappeared when you fell. You buried the old version of yourself beneath their lies. The one who forgave too easily. The one who believed sorry was sacred. The one who thought being good meant being safe. No one told you that being good makes you a target. That kindness in a cruel world looks like weakness to the broken. So they took advantage, and when they were done using you, they blamed you for being there. They told others, you changed, and they're right. But they never talk about why. They never mention the betrayal that built you. The betrayal that carved iron into your soul. You learned to smile in the face of liars. You learned to stand alone at tables where loyalty was for sale. And slowly, pain stopped hurting. It started teaching. That's when the rage became quiet. Not wild, not chaotic, just controlled, refined, cold. The kind of rage that doesn't shout. It plans. The kind that studies patterns, then ends them. They thought you would crumble. Instead, you calculated. You saw how fake promises echo louder than truth. You saw how people love the sound of forever, but never stay for struggle. They say revenge is poison. They're right. But only if you drink it. You learn to serve it cold, on the plate, called success. Because nothing haunts a betrayer more than watching you win. Nothing terrifies a liar more than seeing you unstoppable. They whisper about you now, call you distant, call you heartless. But they don't understand. You're not cold, you're cured. You stopped seeking closure from the people who shattered you. You stopped expecting apologies from those allergic to accountability. You realized peace isn't found in forgiveness. It's found in evolution. And you evolved into something their guilt can't touch. Something their words can't wound. Something their absence can't destroy. They can't reach you anymore because they taught you how to climb walls instead of break down doors. They gave you the blueprint of betrayal, and you built an empire from it. They said you'd never recover. You didn't. You rebuilt, brick by brick, scar by scar, in the shadows where no one was watching. And now, when they see you, their smiles falter, their voices tremble, because they remember what they did and realize they created their own nightmare. You don't walk into rooms anymore. You haunt them. You're the reminder of everything they lost when they lied. You're the echo of the trust they broke. You're the ghost of loyalty that never died. It just changed form. They look at you now and see reflection, not redemption. They see themselves, and it terrifies them because you're living proof that pain can't kill you. It only redefines you. That betrayal doesn't end you. It introduces you. That silence isn't weakness, it's evolution. Let them whisper. Let them stare. Let them choke on the memory of who you were. Because the one they betrayed is gone, and the one who replaced him doesn't forgive, doesn't forget, doesn't fall. He stands, he watches, he smiles, not in peace but in prophecy. And deep down, they know. The fear they feel when you enter the room isn't about who you are now. It's about what they turned you into. You don't walk into rooms anymore. You haunt them. And every whisper that follows your name is just another ghost reminding them. They built you. You used to shrink yourself just to make others comfortable. You spoke softly so fragile egos wouldn't break. You hid your light so their shadows could feel tall. But not anymore. Now when you walk in, the air adjusts. The laughter dulls. The noise fades. Every movement bends to your presence like gravity reclaiming what's hers. They sense it. That quiet danger. That calm beneath your pulse. That energy that doesn't need to shout to dominate. They feel it before they understand it. And by then, it's too late. You've become something they can't categorize. Not friend, not enemy, just a force. Unpredictable, unapologetic, unreachable. There's a moment, right before the first word leaves your mouth, when they realize they're not in control anymore. They used to own the room. Now the room owns them. And you are the reason why. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to command attention. Your silence does it for you. The weight of your presence is louder than any speech they could make. They wonder how you do it. How someone once broken now walks like a storm, wrapped in restraint. They don't understand that stillness can be a weapon. That peace can be a mask for power. Even silence obeys you now. Because silence isn't emptiness. It's dominance restrained. And restraint terrifies the weak. Because it means you have power you're not even using. You've become the mirror that exposes what people hide. The calm that unnerves chaos. The reminder that confidence doesn't come from applause. It comes from survival. You learned that true strength isn't loud. It's not flamboyant. It's not theatrical. It's surgical, precise, inevitable. You stopped moving to impress. You started moving with purpose. Every step, every glance, every pause, calculated, measured, unshakable. They used to mock your quiet. Now they fear it, because quiet doesn't mean absent. It means observing, and nothing scares pretenders more than being watched by someone who sees through them. You became the storm they used to mock, the very thing they said you'd never become. And the irony, they still talk. They just don't talk around you. They sense it instinctively, Your energy doesn't chase, it pulls. Your focus doesn't wander, it pierces. And when your eyes meet theirs, they look away first, always. Because deep down, they feel it. That the hierarchy has shifted. That the power they once fed on now bows to you. You didn't demand it. You didn't steal it. You earned it. Through pain, through patience, through persistence they'll never comprehend. Now even their laughter sounds hollow in your presence. Even their words feel rehearsed. They know one wrong sentence, one false smile, and you'll see the entire lie beneath their skin. You no longer crave their respect. You command it. You no longer seek validation. You replaced it with vision. You no longer chase belonging, because every place you stand already bends to your rhythm. That's the moment you changed everything, when you stopped trying to be understood and became undeniable. When you realized you were never meant to fit in their rooms. You were meant to redefine them. They see it now. The posture, the stillness, the gaze that doesn't flinch. You don't move like prey anymore. You move like a memory they're afraid to relive. And when you pass, they lower their eyes, not from shame, but from instinct. Because predators recognize kings, and cowards recognize consequences. This is what they never tell you about power. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be announced. It just is. You became the presence that changes everything without a word. The storm that bends the wind without moving. The gravity that shifts the axis of a room without trying. You no longer walk into rooms. Rooms shape themselves around you. And that's what they can't handle. That control doesn't look like chaos anymore. It looks like calm. It looks like you. So when they lower their eyes, when their voices falter, when they pretend not to notice the air tightening, don't say a word. Let them feel it. Let them drown in the weight of their own awareness. Because this time, you don't have to prove anything. You already are the proof. You used to fight for your place. Now, the ground itself shifts to make space for your shadow. They'll never understand it. How a soul forged in silence became the loudest storm in the room. But they'll feel it. Every time you walk in, every time they lower their eyes. And that's enough. Because you no longer need their recognition. You are the shift they can't explain. You are the force they can't contain. You are what silence looks like when it finally decides to speak. They don't look at you the same anymore. Not because you changed overnight, but because they finally see what you've become. For years, they mistook your patience for weakness, your silence for uncertainty, your kindness for submission. They thought you were waiting for their approval, but you were simply waiting for the right moment to reveal who you are. And now that moment has come. You can see it in their faces. The confusion, the discomfort, the disbelief. The same people who laughed when you fell now pretend they always believed. The same voices that mocked your dreams now speak softly around your name. Because they can feel it. Something's changed. You don't move like them anymore. You don't think like them anymore. You don't need them anymore. You became the storm they tried to contain. And when they look into your eyes now, they finally understand. The fire they once dismissed as delusion was real. It was power. It was purpose. It was prophecy. You were never lost. You were becoming. They whisper your name now, not like a friend's, but like a warning. They talk about you the way people talk about shadows that linger too long. And when you enter the room, something inside them folds. They adjust their posture. They lower their tone. They measure their words carefully, afraid to reveal their insincerity, because deep down they know. You can see straight through them now. You always could. You just stopped pretending you couldn't. You became too sharp for their comfort, too aware for their illusions, too alive for their lies. And that's when the masks began to fall. Not because you ripped them off, but because your presence made it impossible for them to keep wearing them. They used to call you intense. Now they call you intimidating. They used to laugh at your vision. Now they study your silence, trying to decode it. But you don't speak for their understanding anymore. You speak for effect. Every word is a blade. Every pause, a scar. Every glance, a reminder that the person they once knew doesn't exist anymore. They say, you've changed. But they don't realize change isn't something you do. It's something you become when pain stops asking for permission. You evolved in the darkness they left you in. You learned to breathe in the smoke they thought would suffocate you. You turned exile into training. You turned loneliness into empire. Now when they see you, they don't see a victim. They see the consequence of their betrayal. They see reflection, not redemption. They see what they could have been if they hadn't been afraid to become it. You wear your scars like royal insignias now. Proof of battles survived, not wounds sustained. You speak less, but every word carries gravity. You move slower, but every step echoes. You smile rarely, but when you do, it terrifies them. Because your smile doesn't mean peace. It means awareness. It means control. It means they no longer have power here. They used to look down on you. Now they can't meet your eyes. Because when they do, they see judgment. Not from you, but from themselves. Every lie they told you now hangs in the air between you. Every betrayal, every mockery, every whispered doubt. It all returns in silence, amplified. They can't hide from it anymore. Not with their smiles, not with their charm, not with their excuses. Because the truth doesn't need words. It needs presence. And your presence speaks louder than their guilt ever could. They whisper your name like a warning, not a memory. They say, something's different about him. They don't realize it's everything. You became the embodiment of consequence, the living proof that the world's cruelty can forge divinity. You are what happens when suffering learns to fight back. You don't chase revenge anymore. You embody it, not through anger, but through success. Not through shouting, but through silence. Because nothing cuts deeper than being forced to admire the person you tried to destroy. Now they speak of you carefully, like you might hear them, and you do. But you don't respond. You don't correct them. You don't explain yourself. You let their fear do the talking, because their fear has finally learned what their pride refused to admit. You won. The room doesn't change because you're loud. It changes because you've already conquered it before walking in. They can't deny it. You command the atmosphere now. Not through chaos, but through certainty. You are untouchable because you've already been touched by everything that was meant to break you. You're unbreakable because you've already shattered and rebuilt yourself 1,000 times. You're unstoppable because you stopped asking for permission to exist. And as they stand there, trying to hide the tremor in their hands, the crack in their voice, the nervous glance they exchange, you stay still. You don't need to remind them who you are. They already know. They see it in every breath you take, in every silence you allow, in every second they hesitate to speak your name. Let them tremble. Let them hide behind politeness. Let them pretend they're not afraid. You earned that fear. You earned that silence. You earned the right to walk through their hypocrisy untouched. Because when the masks fell and the lights went out, you were the only one who didn't flinch. You didn't need to prove you were different. The world proved it for you. And now, every time they see you, they remember the prophecy they never believed. The quiet ones were never weak. They were simply waiting, watching, becoming. And when they finally stepped into the light, the world bowed. Not in worship, but in recognition. Because there's no hiding from the truth anymore. No running from the shadow they created. They see it now, clearly. You were never the storm they feared. You were the calm before it. And now, the calm walks among them, unbothered, untouchable, and unforgettable. You learn to feed on tension, to breathe in discomfort, to make fear your crown and silence your kingdom. You stopped running from what they said about you. You started building with it, brick by brick, word by word, doubt by doubt. They thought fear would isolate you, but fear made you immortal. Because power isn't control. Power is certainty. It's when you stop asking, do they understand me? And start whispering, they never will. Now when you move, they move slower. When you speak, they forget how to breathe. You became a rhythm they can't keep up with. A frequency they can't decode. A shadow that doesn't vanish, even in the light. You don't chase validation anymore. You let silence do the talking, and silence never lies. They used to mock your isolation. Now they call it focus. They used to call you dangerous. Now they call you necessary. They used to tell stories about you in jest. Now they tell them in caution. Because fear is no longer your cage. It's your compass. It points you toward every weakness, every deceit, every unspoken threat. And instead of avoiding it, you sit on it, like a throne carved from the bones of every doubt you've ever survived. They once called you dangerous. Now they call you necessary. You stopped being the underdog the day you realized you never were one. You were the architect, the engineer of your own chaos. And chaos, when mastered, becomes law. You walk differently now, not faster, not slower, heavier. Every step a declaration, every glance a warning. They don't know what terrifies them more. Your confidence or the quiet promise behind it. That you don't need to prove dominance. Your dominance. They mistake your calm for mercy. But mercy died the night you stopped waiting to be saved. Now you save yourself, and that unnerves them. Because they've never seen self-sufficiency look so ruthless. They can't hide their fear anymore. It bleeds through their smiles, leaks through their gestures, spills out in nervous laughter. They can't fake normalcy around someone who no longer plays pretend. You walk in, and the energy shifts like a tide turning. Their words stumble, their masks tremble, because they can feel it. The presence of someone who has nothing left to prove. That's the secret, isn't it? Once you stop needing approval, you become untouchable. You became the ghost that haunts the insecure, the mirror that doesn't lie, the reminder that true power never explains itself. You don't fight for attention. Attention kneels. You don't ask for loyalty. Loyalty forms in your shadow. You don't demand fear. Fear arrives uninvited, because fear isn't something you inflict anymore. It's something you command, not through cruelty, but through consequence. They learned what your silence means now. It means judgment. It means calculation. It means their time is running out. They know the difference between arrogance and certainty. And you carry certainty like a weapon sheathed in grace. You don't need to threaten. Your existence is the warning. You don't walk with confidence. You walk with consequence. Your throne isn't made of gold. It's made of scars, betrayal, and every lesson learned the hard way. It's not built on applause. It's built on survival. And when you sit upon it, you don't look down on the world. You look through it, because you've seen what's behind the curtain. You've seen how fragile people become when comfort leaves the room. You've seen how loyalty fades when it's no longer convenient. And yet, you stand. You reign. You became everything they whisper about, and more. You are the calm before the storm, and the lightning after it. You are the silence between their sentences. You are the look that makes truth collapse. You're what they call too much, when in reality, you're exactly what they'll never be enough to face. Let them talk. Let them flinch. Let them worship from afar. Because power isn't about control. It's about peace that refuses to beg. They mistake your stillness for serenity. But what they don't know is that beneath it lies a battlefield. Every scar, every betrayal, every ghost, all kneeling in formation, waiting for your next move. You became your own army, your own empire, your own religion, and the world, it follows, not out of love, but out of instinct, because even nature bows to what it fears. This is the moment they never prepared for. The moment you embrace the darkness they tried to shame out of you. The moment you realize that fear, when wielded correctly, doesn't control you. It crowns you. So let them tremble when you enter. Let them whisper your name like a spell they're too afraid to speak aloud. Because this throne wasn't given. It was taken, forged, earned, through blood, through silence, through fire. You are not arrogant. You are awakened. And your throne isn't built to be admired. It's built to remind them that greatness and fear are the same language, spoken fluently by those who survived hell and learned to smile in the ashes. You don't rise anymore. You rule. Because fear, your oldest enemy, now kneels at your feet. And that is the truest form of victory. One day, they will tell stories about you, not with warmth, not with nostalgia, but with caution. Your name will echo in rooms you'll never enter again. Your shadow will cross generations that never met you. And even in whispers, your silence will still command attention. Because you didn't live to be remembered. You live to become impossible to forget. They'll say your presence was heavy, like the air before a storm. They'll say your voice could stop a heartbeat. They'll say no one dared to lie when you were in the room. And they'll be right. You didn't become feared by chance. You became feared because you mastered what they couldn't. Yourself. You learned to tame chaos without killing it. You learned to command storms without begging the sky. You learned that legacy doesn't come from noise. It comes from consistency, from discipline, from silence that never needed an audience to prove it existed. They'll never admit it, but they admire you. They admire the way you built empires without applause, the way you stood alone and still shook the ground, the way your calm made kings reconsider their crowns. You didn't chase thrones, you made them. You didn't chase destiny, you designed it. And when they tried to bury you, you didn't rise from the ashes. You became the fire that made them kneel. Every empire fears what it cannot control. You became that fear. You don't belong to the world anymore. You belong to its memory, a chapter in its book that can't be rewritten. They will tell their sons, don't cross paths with someone like him. They will tell their daughters, he's the silence that breaks loud men. They will whisper your lessons without ever saying your name, because your story isn't a fairy tale. It's a warning to those who play with loyalty, a warning to those who mistake silence for surrender, a warning to those who think monsters are born, not made. You didn't seek power to control others. You sought it to master yourself. And in that mastery, you became untouchable. No one can threaten a man who no longer fears loss. No one can break a soul that learned to rebuild itself in darkness. No one can compete with someone who stopped competing. That's your true immortality. You exist beyond envy, beyond validation, beyond approval. You exist in that rare air where peace and power coexist, where calm and chaos shake hands and call it balance. You are the reminder that silence can burn and shadows can rule. When they speak your name now, they lower their tone, because it doesn't sound like a person anymore. It sounds like a consequence. They tried to turn you into a villain, but history prefers villains who win. They tried to erase you, but ink cannot kill memory carved in fear. You are the echo of every oath broken against you. You are the weight of every regret that followed their betrayal. You are the living monument of what happens when a soul stops asking permission to exist. Let them remember. Let them tremble when they do, because legacy is not about being loved. It's about being undeniable. You didn't need fame. You needed impact, and you left it carved into their bones. Even now, when you walk away, the silence doesn't fade. It kneels, it obeys, it remembers. They will build myths about you to make sense of their guilt. They'll invent reasons, excuses, timelines. But the truth will remain the same. You were real, and they failed to understand you when they had the chance. They'll call you ruthless, because mercy would have ruined you. They'll call you cold, because heat makes the weak sweat. They'll call you heartless, because their hearts were too fragile to comprehend your strength. Let them, because the louder they accuse, the more they reveal their fear. And fear is the purest form of respect. Your shadow will outlive their light. Your silence will outlast their noise. Your name, the same one they mocked, will become a spell of warning. Not beware of him, but become like him. Because deep down, even your enemies wish they had your discipline, your patience, your control. They don't hate your power. They hate the mirror it holds up. They'll say you were ruthless. They'll say you were dangerous. They'll say you were too much, and you'll smile. Wherever legends rest, because you were never meant to be liked. You were meant to be remembered. They will rewrite your story to fit their comfort, but your silence will always speak the truth they can't bury. You endured. You ascended. You became inevitable. And the world, in all its noise and chaos, will keep returning to your name whenever it speaks of power. They tried to bury your voice. Now it echoes in every corridor they enter. You are not the ending of their story. You are the pause between their sentences. The silence that exposes weakness, the memory that won't fade even when your body does. And when the next generation asks, what happened to him, they'll say, he didn't vanish. He became everything the world was too afraid to face. Your name will not age. Your legacy will not decay, because you were never just a man. You were momentum. You were movement. You were the lesson carved in lightning. They'll remember the stillness you carried, the way fear looked different when it stood in front of you, the way you made time hesitate before moving again. And when they finally leave the room after speaking your name, they'll feel it. That same tightening of air, that same invisible weight that never left when you did. Because you don't die when you disappear. You die when the world forgets you. And the world will never forget you. The silence doesn't fade when you leave. It kneels. And in that silence, in that eternal echo where your name is both prayer and warning, you reign. Not as a man, not as a myth, but as a shadow crowned in memory, forever seated upon the throne, built from the fear of those who tried to stop you. Your legacy is not written in ink. It's written in pause, in the hesitation before they speak your name, in the trembling before they realize you never needed their crown. You became the kingdom. And now, when they whisper your story into the dark, they won't say your name in reverence or in love. They'll say it because they still feel you watching. Because even time knows you never left. You simply became the silence that the world now fears.